Welcome back to Got No Control podcast. I am your host, RONEK. We're officially back on tour. Keep rolling tour. We stopped by San Diego, beautiful city. Shout out to the whole San Diego graffiti culture. And before I introduce my special guest today, I want to invite you guys to head over to gotnocontrol.com. Check out our official merchandise. Grab yourself a t-shirt, a hoodie, and so much more. This gives us more financial freedom to be able to come out and, shoot these podcast episodes, bring content to you guys, and all that good stuff. So make sure to check it out, gotnocontrol.com. And with that being said, today, I have the pleasure of stopping by and meeting my good friend, PERSUE. How you doing today, brother?
What up? What up? Doing well. It's Sunday morning. You got me up early.
Yeah, early morning in San Diego. We got the coffee going. My coffee got a little cold, but we'll get another one soon.
Yeah, man. Welcome to San Diego.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. I just want to start by saying that, your compound is amazing, brother. You got something special here.
Thank you. Worked really hard at it. Been supported by, a lot of amazing people in my lifetime that we could probably touch on today that have really helped me along this journey of being an artist.
Definitely. And I know anybody, they can't see this, but walking in here, man, it just inspires you to just pick up something and do something.
It's a lot of stuff. I think it's a culmination of 35 years of, archives and current projects I'm working on. So there's a lot in here. So yeah, you're right, man. You might, lift up or look in one of the boxes and find black books that date back to the 80s all the way current, and then my photo collections and, things that that I feel that are important to the storytelling of, maybe our culture and perspective down here in San Diego, and to the world.
100%, brother. I agree. I mean, in my opinion, it's always important to be able to share for next generations to understand, like, hey, man, there's guys out here doing this.
Big time.
It's kind of like when you look into culture, right? Like, for example, Mexicans like myself, Aztec warriors, they were here before us.
Simone.
I
know, man. Aztlan, San Diego.
So understanding that, I think it's a dope thing to understand, right?
It really is.
Even the American history, when you date it back, you start understanding, like, damn, there's people out here really doing things.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you touched on that, and being of not Mexican, ancestry, and being part of the writing culture, in San Diego, there is a big Mexican movement in the graffiti culture and in writing, just like any other city, I think, in California.
Definitely.
So I found myself, you talk about graffiti and culture, like if I was a writer seeking out other writers in my city, it would just take me all over the place, right? Like into different neighborhoods and through this culture, it's introduced me to, like, man, how people are really living in my city. And I've been accepted with open arms and in a bunch of different neighborhoods because of where my heart is and then where my talents lay.
And that's amazing, right? It's amazing to be able to, coordinate with other people that you might not even know, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, but I could resemble because where I come from, I know this.
Yeah.
And with that, taking that into consideration, hey, don't sleep on the Mexican food at San Diego, because I know they be saying that, like, hey, man, this and that, but
I'm just gonna say, I'm Mexican by digestion. We're pretty proud about our Mexican food down here. Our sister city is Tijuana.
Yeah.
And so, you talk about, I guess they would consider this Tex-Mex still, I don't know, but I don't see it, but maybe it is to some people. I have no idea, but It took LA and San Francisco a long time to catch up to us when it came to our food, man. But I think LA's
Yeah.
come a long way for Mexican food.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I wasn't looking in the right places or in the right spots through the decades, but you know, from what I see, like all the food bloggers and what's happening up in LA, looks like Mexican food is doing well up that way.
Man,
I don't know if that makes sense. You
I'm
know?
telling you, man. I was hanging out with a buddy of mine out here, and they're like, "Man, you gotta go to his taco spot." They kept hitting me up. Hey, you gotta
Yeah.
go to his taco spot.
Yeah.
Shout out to Snaps and his wife, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, "You gotta go to taco spot," and I'm like, "All right, let's go check it out."
Yeah.
So they take me to a little cut before you get into the freeway, and I'm like, "Oh shit, what's going on over here?" And that thing was full house,
Yeah.
packed, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!"
Yo, we love our Mexican food out this way, man.
And it was like, all right, now I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I witnessed it from my own two eyes, and I tasted it and digested it.
Yeah. So you got a dose, so
Yeah.
you know.
I got a dose of the SD Mexican food.
You know why we're protective over our our reign of Mexican food in the city and or in California
Absolutely.
or in the region.
You know, brother, for anybody out there that would watch us and kind of be like, well, I don't know who PERSUE is, right? Can you tell me a little bit about what is home to you and how was it coming up for you at home?
Well, you know, San Diego is home for me. I was born in 1972 to a family that had moved to California in the late 60s from New York City.
Okay.
And so my parents wanted to leave that life behind and set out to have a new life here in Dago. And they put us in a place in San Diego that was like a bubble. It was like a suburb.
Yeah.
And so it was a nice place. We were privileged in that sense to be able to be in a setting like that, man. Like it was really, my parents were doing as much as they can, especially my mother and my grandmother. My dad, he was a bit of a Rolling Stone.
Okay.
You know, he liked to party, chase women. He was a playboy,
Gotcha.
you know. So like he wasn't really around too much. And left my mom and my grandmother to raise all six of us. I'm one of six. And, you know, just like a lot of California kids, I got into, you know, what was happening, you know, skateboarding and BMX riding and playing hide and go seek and baseball or you know, two-hand or even tackle football with my friends, you know, just like
Yeah.
living that suburb life, you know, like it was pretty chill. But it wasn't in, you know, the 80s came around and like being from a broken home, like, and, you know, my mom, like trying to live her life and go back to school, like it left us with a lot of free time, you know?
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a soccer player, you know? I wanted to really pursue being a professional soccer player because I loved it. That was a very passionate player. And when I realized that wasn't going to happen, I dove into music, and I started to pick up the bass guitar, and I would start dressing in all black and spike. This is the '80s, and
Yeah.
spike my hair, and you know,
What were some
just-
influences for music for you?
Oh man, I was a big Cure and Smiths and New Order, all the post-punk stuff.
Okay.
And even the LA death rock movement, you know, like bands like Community FK and Christian Death, and just some dark shit. And then
Okay.
all this stuff that was coming out of the Manchester music scene and even London, you know, with Batcave, like Specimen and Alien Sex Fiend and all this stuff. But it was like obscure music at the time, and I loved it. And like the rap music or hip hop was just sort of like, this was like before like I even heard all of that stuff. Like before it was like, this is like, you know, 83, I was listening to all this stuff and I was really engulfed in all that music. And then my sister started bringing home records from the clubs, like Egyptian Lover
Okay.
and World Class Wrecking Crew. And she's like, oh, yo, you got to listen to this. And so like she was introducing me to the dance music coming out from the West Coast at that time. And I was like, oh, this is slamming. Like this Egypt track from Egyptian Lover is
Yeah.
really hitting. It's dope.
Egyptian Lover.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so she was putting me on, and she would do that many times because she was the one who introduced me to all these obscure like post-punk bands, you know, as a young kid. And you know, so you know, fast forward to 87, '88, I was introduced to the graffiti culture through a friend that was going to high school, and I hung out with a lot of Filipino cats in
Okay.
San Diego, and especially where I was being raised in Poway, it was mostly Caucasian community, and I didn't necessarily like see eye to eye with their perspective on culture and stuff, and like what they
Yeah.
perceived as like, they it was a bubble,
Definitely.
and so I just gravitated to the cats that had flavor, and in our neighborhood it was the Filipino cats. So
Was that like a barrier though? Because you come from a situation where some people around you might not understand the new wave of what's going on, and you're trying to break out of that cycle and kind of being looked at like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that or being over there doing this. Well, that's kind of like a impactful barrier for you.
you mean like when it came to writing graffiti?
No, you say
Or
coming from a neighborhood where you didn't really believe in and their beliefs and their way of thinking,
right,
and then kind of like stepping back and branching out, like what,
right.
this is something I want to do. I want to be involved in this, and
Yeah, so I grew up in a household that was racist against racism,
yeah,
like big time. I'm in a rainbow family,
okay,
and so I just was more curious about people, and this would become a thing in my life that would drive me to leave San Diego and to travel and to see the world and to uh, break the walls of culture down. This is the beautiful thing that our community does, is like these. If you write, it's like, oh, we relate.
yeah.
For the most part.
It's like we know each other one way or another.
It's like, oh, you like that guy's stuff? Oh, I love that guy. And we geek out, we nerd
Yeah,
out on this stuff. So, uh, it's cool. I mean, my grandmother's Caucasian,
okay,
and so it's like, I was able to navigate through it. But when they found out, some people found out my orientation or my background or my makeup, like, it was, things were said, and I was like,
yeah.
man, I hate it. It sucks, and like, I don't want to live that life. I want to chill with the people I relate with, and like, that's just being a human being, man.
Yeah, I believe it comes with it, right? Like there's always going to be something that's going to be like trying to stop you from getting to that level you want to
Yeah.
get to. But it's like,
There's a lot of fear in people's
yeah.
hearts, man. Like,
I try not to live in fear, bro.
dude, fear sucks.
I'm kind of the type of guy where like if I come up with an idea,
Yeah.
boom, let's do it. Don't
Let's
think
do
twice.
it. Yeah, man.
If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it also got to be a reasonable idea.
It's
You know what I mean?
passion, man.
It's not like, hey, fall off a bridge real quick. Like, nah, I got to think about how am I going to land first.
Yeah, man. Like, do I really want to do that? It's okay if I don't want to do it. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's for someone else. My upper body strength isn't. My homeboy's upper body strength is like waist. He can hang and dangle, and I'm like, nah. I know myself. I can't do that.
I know you mentioned early on you were into music, right?
Yeah.
But those early stages of creativity for you, how did that come about? Was it always art? Was it music? Or was it sports or anything else?
It was like all of it.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like this guy who likes to do it all.
Okay.
That's why I bounce from genre to genre, and I'm able to do a lot of different projects between wet paint, bunny kitty, writing graffiti, doing music. It's because I have like severe ADHD, and
Okay.
I fill it with work.
Gotcha.
That's how I cope with it. And so as long as I'm producing, I'm good.
It's really dope that you say that, bro, because I feel like I'm the same way.
Yeah, I
Like
think a lot of us are.
Like if I'm not working and doing something,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm wasting time. Like,
Yeah.
like what am I doing?
Yeah, and it just comes across to other people like,
Yeah.
"Yo, he's on beast mode." I was like, "No, man, I just have to do it."
Yeah.
And I think that's what really, I mean, just the rate I was producing as a young kid, getting into the skateboard industry and getting into graffiti is like, man, that was helpful because I was like, I would finish one thing and it was already old. Even like, right when it was done and turned in, I was like, oh, that's old. I need to do something else.
Yeah.
And I would just like keep going, keep going. I think that's what people loved when they hired me for these companies, and I was able to like, conjure up all these ideas and bring them
Gotcha.
to the table. And it generated money and a living for a lot of people. I was part of a pretty cool thing there, you know.
For myself, I could say like my surroundings coming outside, or whether it was like looking at a bird or whatever.
True.
It
Yeah.
kind of like inspire my creativity as far as like when you start drawing or whatnot.
Yeah.
So like I would come out and see like a certain type of car, a bird,
Yeah.
a homie that looks like a little funny.
Yeah, yeah,
And my
dude.
mind starts rolling, right?
Yeah. So I did that a lot
Yeah.
as a kid because being one of 6 kids, it was kind of chaos in the house. And I would walk.
Yeah.
And I would walk for miles and miles and miles. And I would just ponder and think heavy thoughts. When I was born, I felt like I had a lot of answers, but the adults wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And since they wouldn't listen, I would just, as I got to be older and like, separate from friends because of their views and stuff. Like I just found myself either skateboarding or walking all around town, and I'd have like a backpack of records with me and I'd go to friends, we'd have listening parties, and then I'd walk miles and miles home, and it's funny because people would see me out there and always say, yo, you're always walking. Like, where are you going? I'm on anywhere but, home right now because I felt like I was running from home at one point, especially when I was introduced to graffiti. I was like, well, I want to always be out there. I want to be out with my friends painting and getting into shit and just enjoy the adventure and the journey of life.
Getting into graffiti for you, right? I know it kind of opened up this venture where it was like, man, this is something that's like my outsource to just speak in my own language, right?
Yeah.
The early introduction, you said it was high school through a friend.
Yeah.
Once this friend made the introduction to what this was, do you kind of like just start looking now, like I want to see if I see something now? As far as
That's right. Yeah, things started. I got to say, I was really looking at like the gang writing.
Yeah.
Like that was I was like around people that were like around that culture, and then so like I was noticing like more Chicano, like plancas and like all that,
like black castles, like big block letters.
Yeah, block
and
letters
the flares and the cut.
It was dope, yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like, yo, I was romanticizing it because
Yeah.
we were watching like movies and like stuff like that. But I think the realization came when I told you that story about having a shotgun held in my head.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know about gang culture, man. That shit's kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
I tried to like immediately pivot and be like, yo, I'm about the art. I don't have the I wasn't raised in the gang culture, so a lot of my friends are,
Yeah.
and that's just a lifestyle that I've found that there's a lot of love in the hood, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I don't know, man. I mean, that's just everybody has their own sort of like life journey. But I was like to go back to like early stuff, like
Yeah.
I was from a family of artists.
Also, it ran in the
So it was in my DNA. So my grandmother, like when I was 5, was like, "Oh, you're an artist. You have the artist spirit." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't know what that means." I just, okay. And so they really encouraged it. But when I got to graffiti, they were like, and I got caught on the freeway, and bombing red-handed with my friend, and like. My grandmother, I was living with my grandmother at the time, and she had to come pick me up like at 3 a.m. on the freeway on a school night. I had snuck out, and she was like, "Yo, like, what are you doing?
This is not the type of artist I mean
this
you
isn't
were."
art." I go, "No, it is. You just don't know." And then I kept doing it, but like under the radar. And then I started bringing home pictures of what I was doing.
Okay.
And then showing her, and she's all, "Oh, you are doing art." And then they started buying me spray paint for my birthday.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, but I never told them I was doing illegal stuff. I just said, "Oh, I'm not doing any of that."
Yeah.
When I was, doing it here and there.
Yeah.
But I was really trying to hone in my skills of like style and whatnot. I was on a quest.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Diving a little bit back, you get introduced to graffiti by a friend in high school. You start looking around like, okay, I see this now, I see that, and you start absorbing what's around you,
Yeah.
right? At what point do you tell yourself, like, you know what, I'm gonna take that step and dive into this culture?
Yeah, it was pretty immediate. I mean, the moment I met this dude, I knew right away when he opened up his black book to show me what he was
Yeah.
making. I was like blown back. I was like, oh, wow, like this is it. And I think that night, it was a Friday night or a Friday at school, I met him. He's all, you want to go out tonight? We go bomb. I was like, yeah, I
Whatever that
do.
is, but I'm going.
Pick me up.
Yeah.
This is where I live. And he rolled up with like four other dudes I didn't know.
Yeah.
And we jumped in the car as like, 17-year-olds, drove around our part of the city. We had a crew called UCW, Unknown City Riders.
Unknown City Riders.
And we tagged, man. We tagged all over the place. We got chased. We were so sloppy. We just rolled up in like his family's Astro van, jumped out of the car. We would mob a wall. People would be driving by, like.
Oh, wow.
And we were in parts of towns that graffiti didn't exist. That's why we were UCW, because like back then in San Diego, like there were quite a few riders, but it was like mostly like east side, south side. Like we were more north side guys.
Okay.
And like,
So you guys have an east side, south side, north side out here.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's southeast, Spring Valley, south side, Chula Vista. We'd be like north side inland, so we were like north of the 8
Okay.
is like more north.
Gotcha.
But it was pretty much immediate. We went, and that was it. After that, man, I was writing two-tone at the time, or skunk or something.
Okay.
And because I had a pompadour and a bleached tail. It was the 80s.
Yeah.
And we, my friend was like, yo, you need a better name. You need, that's not you. And so we searched for a name and stuff like that, like at school, the following Monday or week or something like that. And we landed on PERSUE. So my friend, Expect, who's a Filipino graffiti writer, gave me the name PERSUE.
And where does that come from? Was it just a thought?
Well, it was a list of names. So
okay.
I was like, oh, what about admire?
Yeah.
I like those letters. He's on, nah. Oh, how about, this, oh, that's taken, and he was like, what's not taken is, and this is a dope name. He's all PERSUE. I was all, oh shit. And we were spelling it PRSUE. And I was like, I like that, man. Like, that's what's up. If you say so, he was my mentor. So like, if you say so, if you think that's a dope name, I'll write it, and so that's what I did. So in 1988, I became PERSUE. And we started ditching school,
Okay.
and driving to South San Diego and hunting, all the pits and looking for graffiti and finding it,
Yeah.
and then getting connected with heads down there, and then creating a cruise and just expanding from there. And like our network was just getting bigger and bigger. He eventually left the movement, and I was hooked. That was it. That's all I wanted to do.
He left the movement early on, or he stuck around for a while.
He left early.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were always getting into trouble, and his parents weren't having it. And every time we were together, we would get in trouble. Either we were ditching and then getting tickets from the cops, and the parents finding out that we were ditching, and then we were getting caught on the freeway, bombing, and it was just one thing after another.
Do you still talk to him to today?
Yeah, he eventually reached out. He became he went into the Marine Corps, and then he became a marshal up in
wow.
Compton or somewhere. He was a gang unit.
Oh wow.
And I was like, you're probably,
I wonder if he ever tells people like, hey, I used to paint graffiti.
No, he was really secretive. Like even recently when he reached out a few years ago. I hadn't heard from him. Like his cousin was following my work and like letting him know that like, yo, PERSUE's in it.
He's out here doing big things.
He's doing it.
Yeah.
He made it. I don't know what making it is, but he's doing it, And so he reached out and was like, hey man, like it's so good to see you doing it. I knew from the day I met you, you had the ability to do something with it. So I'm real proud of you. And I was just like, yeah, it's dope. And so I got to see him. He's living in Hawaii now, and I was going out there doing mural events and stuff with Powwow or Worldwide Walls. And so I'd be able to see him again and like, catch up and talk about the old days. And, he kind of was like, I had a wet paint sign with me and he caught an expect tag on it. I was like, oh, you still got it. You've been doing it. He's like, yeah, but don't tell my family.
You've been practicing.
Come on, man. Like, dude, your family would probably think you were way cooler if they knew that you were like involved with the culture.
But I'm sure
there's nothing embarrassing about it, though.
I'm sure he was extremely happy for you, just to see you.
I think he was.
That you stuck with it, and he played a part, and
he gave me my name, man.
And getting here, and it's an amazing thing, right?
Yeah,
it's dope.
People gift you with things. You just have to realize like where they're coming from.
I'm a fair believer on that. Like when someone gives me something, whether it's an advice, an idea, a thought, or just a time.
Yeah. But there's also these cats that do the opposite.
Yeah. So I always listen. Sometimes I'll have situations where like someone really wants to talk.
Yeah.
All right, bro. I don't got that much time.
Let's hear it.
5 minutes.
Let's hear some wisdom.
Yeah. And I listen to it. I digest it and I pay attention. So that's dope.
But I came up through the culture through mentorism.
Yeah.
I didn't go to school for art. I was mentored and discovered by like in graffiti. Like I was, making a name for myself as this guy who was really able to paint characters really well in the early years. And people love that, especially on the West Coast. Like that's, I think, where we were, because of guys like Hex and Slick and Realm and these guys, and even cats up in San Francisco, like characters were really sort of like the popular thing in the 90s, on the West Coast, and like being able to do that stuff. Not so many people were able to do it, and I was really good at it.
Okay.
And so like my name rose fast in San Diego.
What gravitated you to that style, like going from letter structuring to now doing characters?
I think it was because I was always good at characters, and I was able to capture movement within and personality in these things, and then I learned technique by watching Zodak.
Okay.
And Zodak was really prolific down here in San Diego.
I hear nothing but good things about him.
Phenomenal.
Okay.
The dude was phenomenal. He was inspired by Slick.
Okay.
But he took it and he did his own thing, and it evolved into his own thing. And he was young. He was younger than me. And so, like, you think that you're older than someone and you're like, he might be doper. This guy, better than everybody.
Yeah.
He wasn't so much a letter guy, but he could do letters. But his characters were just unworldly, man. And like his imagination. It was always just great to be around and watch him paint. Even though there was a lot of things going on in San Diego. So I was picked up by Quasar in '92, and Quasar was part of a crew called APS before that. He had other crews before, before APS, but APS was the superstar like crew, Aerosol Psychotics.
Okay.
And he was part of that, and Zodek was in it, and Dies and Chino, and it was like this, all-star roster, like the Kings. And so Quasar called my grandmother's house one day.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea how he got my number, but he got it. And he's all, is this PERSUE? And I said, yeah, this is PERSUE. Hey, man, yeah, this is Quasar. I was like, oh, shit.
How'd you get the number?
Yeah, and I had just seen him in the paper because Quasar and Saki battled Dies and Zodak.
I heard about the epic battle.
Epic battle, man. You got to show these flicks if you can get a hold of them.
Saki said he's going to send them over, so if Saki lets me see them, I'm sure.
Incredible display, like.
I heard a guy named Buster painted in the middle.
He did.
He painted the Lucy lady.
Yes. It was sort of like reminiscent of what happened with the Slick and Hex battle up in LA. Okay. It was on that level, but it was in San Diego. But the quality of work was just... I want to say Jim Pragoff was there too, documenting.
Really?
It. Absolutely, yeah, he's there.
Man, I heard that there was a bunch of people there.
There was. But I had missed it, but I'd seen it in the paper, and I was like, oh, man, these guys are so good.
Yeah.
And here it is, Quasar calling me. Like, yo, he caught wind of my shit. And so he's like, yo, I'm going to come up to your grandma's house. We're going to kick back. I'm all, cool, man. And he jumped in his ride. He came up to my grandma's house where I live, which is like probably a 30-minute drive from where he was at. And we sat down and we drew and we talked about graffiti and all this stuff. And like he was schooling me, and he's all, listen, I want you in my crew, SBA. So SBA was just him at the time, and that was a single black artist.
Okay.
He's black and Mexican.
Okay.
And I was all, he's all, well, since you're not black, you know, it's not a crew, because he had left APS, and it's not like a single guy crew anymore, because that's my intention, was just to be a single guy. I'm going to put you in SBA. And so we became Seduced by Aerosol, and that was me, Quasar, and Zeno.
Gotcha.
And Zeno had Brisk under his wings at that time, so we were always together.
I just want to take the time to. I know Quasar was a big part of the San Diego graffiti culture. I just want to take the time to say rest in peace.
Yeah, man.
Unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to get to meet him, but off of what I hear, he was a wonderful individual, and I know he's definitely missed out here.
Big time, man. He's our hero. He's our king.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because when I was a kid, I guess I was a young man at the time, but like when we were coming up together, and he was like teaching me stuff. He was taking me to LA. He took me to Belmont. He took me to Culver City, which, you know, we'll get into. I'll tell you some stories about, you know, what's that pit over there in Culver City? That's Motor Yard.
Okay.
Painting Motor Yard with him. You know, we went to San Francisco together. We went to Eugene, Oregon together. Like, he really got me out of the city, and like, man, this is bigger than Dago.
Gotcha.
You know? But a lot of San Diego writers there was already a movement happening, but it was inspired probably by what they were seeing New York graffiti. And so it emulated that. And there were kids, you know, like Saki, and like they were kids paint. They were still young, and they were painting. So you could tell it was like, it wasn't polished or defined yet what it would become. And it was them that went to, you know, getting inspired by San Francisco, TWS, and these guys. And then also like them going to LA and seeing what was happening in LA and techniques, and bringing home the phantoms, like these white New York fat tips.
When they were barely coming in.
When they was brand new, like the testers, you know, and like the cap game really changed it, like techniques and the abilities to really like, you know, figure out techniques and stuff like that. So once that happened, like, just San Diego just evolved just like the rest of California.
How was it traveling? Like, for example, like going to LA and walking into the Belmont Tunnel or the Motor Yard. Like, how was that for you, just watching these? Because Belmont Tunnel was an iconic an iconic place.
Yeah.
For Los Angeles, right?
Los Angeles graffiti history. Absolutely.
And to be able to go out there and witness it. How was that for you?
Well, we showed up there. I'd only stepped foot in there once in my lifetime, and it was probably 91, 92, but every yard we went into, or pit we went into in LA, we always brought a baseball bat. You know, we feel it out, and like because we went there with the intention to paint Belmont, but there was nobody there. And you know, Quasar is like, he knows what's up, and he's like, yeah, it just doesn't feel right. So let's keep them moving. There's another spot, Motor Yard. We'll go to Culver City. Went to Culver City after that, and there was a dude painting a piece. He was just wrapping up. Super nice guy, and he was doing. I don't know what he wrote, but it was a dope piece.
Yeah,
and it was like glistening in the sun, like it was like wet still. You know, it was like I thought, that's a dope piece. True blue outline, you know, slate fills with jades and stuff. It was sick. And super nice dude. And like, we were like, yo, you think it's cool if we paint right here? And he was like, yeah. Yo, totally. Like, go right here. And we had like this whole thing, San Diego Invasion, SBA, you know, Quasar PERSUE, top to bottom on this section of the wall. Like, we had walked in and we seen like the Cokes characters and the AWR stuff in there, you know, and like, man, like that first wave AWR stuff was hitting, and like Cokes was dope, dude. Like I really like that dude's like characters and work and stuff like that. And so we set up and start painting. This guy's like, he's wrapping up. He's like, all right, I'm out. Cool. We're going to keep painting. Yo, it looks great, guys. You know, and like we're filling in and stuff like that. And like, we're doing our thing. And I, you know, I looked down the tracks and I was like, oh shit, we got company. I'm all, yo, Q, we got company, man. And we'd seen like these cholo dudes walking down, you know. I was like, oh shit, here we go. You know, we were looking at the baseball bat and we get our paint, we put all the paint up against the wall, you know. And you know, we just paint. He's just like, yo, just keep on painting, little buddy. I'm like, all right, man, just kidding, fucking painting. You know, I've already had like run-ins with like a lot of shit. You know, I'm like, oh man, this is like the hardest part about like fucking right. It's like, it's just the landscape.
You don't know what's gonna come. It just happens.
It just happens, man. You know, and so these guys, they pull up behind us, and you know, they're just standing behind us. So you got to acknowledge them. So we turn around, me and Quasar, and they were like, this guy, he steps forward and he says, who the fuck are you guys? And we were like, you know, Quasar's like, Quasar, SBA. And I'm all, PERSUE, SBA. And the guy goes like, oh, yeah? Who told you guys you could paint here? And we were like, well, this guy, he just left. And then he was like, yo, like, go ahead. It's all good. And we were just like, we had the paint. We came up from San Diego. We just want to rock. This guy right here? This guy who just, this piece? And we're like, yeah, you know, said it was cool. And, oh yeah, and he lifted under his jacket, and we're like, oh god, here we go, damn. And he's took out a can of black, and we're like, oh okay, shit, dude. Shook it up, walked over to the piece, and crossed it out right in front of us. It was still wet.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? We're like, oh shit, here we go. And he steps back, and we're like, yo, who are you? What do you write?
Yeah.
He's Eclipse AWR.
Oh shit!
And we're like, oh shit, AWR, yo, you guys are fucking dope, you know, like, and you know, and there he stood, he's like, oh, okay. I don't know the other guys who were. They didn't say one word. These other guys that were his henchmen, I have no idea who he was, but they were bigger dudes. They were just like, you know, and he took a step back and he looked at what we were doing. He's I like it. It looks good, man. At least you guys are going top to bottom. Keep painting. And he left. And that was it. That was the first time I met Eclipse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I would see him through the years at the ASR shows because he was doing Gypsies and Thieves. And I'd see him through the years. And then like many years later, I'd be affiliated with Seventh Letter and all that stuff and start painting with MSKs a lot.
And that's one of the things about, you know, this culture. Like you could get hit with anything at any given moment, right? Like for anybody out there that's never been out there and engaged in this, it's like it's not all fun and games, right?
No, dude. I've had many people that I've known or friends of friends that have lost their lives doing this on the West Coast.
Yeah, man. May they all rest in peace.
Rest in peace to all of them, and rest in peace to Quasar, my mentor, my king. You know, like when I think I was getting to a point where you know he's all PERSUE. When I retire, I want you to be Quasar too. About Quasar 2, I want to be PERSUE. You know, I don't want to be Quasar 2. What is that? You know, but like back then, you took on, you know, you might take on your mentor's name and stuff like that. And so, you know, many years later, I would start doing Quasar pieces.
Okay.
And I still do Quasar pieces from time to time. And
man, that's dope, bro. That you keep his legacy alive. And
I miss him, man. You know, he got caught up in a bunch of stuff, and like, you know, I always wanted. There was a crossroads for me, you know, and I seen it because I was working in the skate industry. There was an invite for me to go to Europe for the first time on tour with the skaters.
Okay.
And I was hanging with my crew, SBA, and they were drinking a lot and stuff. And I was like, I wasn't a big drinker and all that stuff, and I was focused on the art.
Yeah.
And you know, I told them, I was like, yo, I'm going to Europe. I'm taking this thing. I'm going to go worldwide with this. And they laughed at me. I was like, oh, okay. You know, I guess that's it. And that was pretty much when I left. I stepped out of SBA and didn't really see Quasar that much. And I started hanging out with a writer down here, Joker, who started Transcend. He was living in San Diego.
Transcend sounds familiar.
Transcendental crew was a crew that Joker started. Joker, I think, was originally from Maryland or D.C., and he ended up in San Diego, and he was known for really pushing abstract styles. And he, you know, Transcend is a bunch of abstract artists. She won, Coffee, myself. It was like a group of of writers that thought outside the box,
Gotcha.
that wasn't confined to, the straight letter styles, that we were like, we're going to try and push some new shit. Kind of like what Phase 2 was doing, an homage to his abstract
Pushing yourself
approach.
to another level.
Push ourselves to another level. To have transcendental thoughts and like apply it to graffiti.
That's super dope.
Yeah.
You mentioned you got into the skateboarding industry. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
How did that go about, and what was your part in that?
Man, I dedicated 25 years into that industry, but it just sort of came organically. I think that like these brands that were emerging in fashion and in skateboarding and in that culture really loved the street aesthetic.
Okay.
And they were fans of it, especially the young guys. And two of those young entrepreneurs was Ken Block, rest in peace, and Damon Way. And they had a t-shirt company by the name of 8 Ball. I was working at Subway Sandwiches at the time with the idea that I would join the Navy to see the world.
Okay.
That the Navy was going to take me around the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I had painted a skate store up in Escondido by the name of Inmate Skates. And the guy was really nice. I forget what his name was. But that was like 91, 92. And he was like, listen, man, like your characters and stuff are dope. I buy t-shirts from this company called 8 Ball and drawers. And this guy, Ken Block, like if he likes your stuff, maybe he'll put it on a t-shirt. And I'm like thinking like, yeah, that'd be dope, man. Like just another way of getting up.
Yeah.
And so I get on the phone call with Ken right there in the shop. And we have a conversation. He's like, yeah, like no big deal. Like if you want to draw something and bring it by, take a look at it. And if we like it, we'll put it on a t-shirt. And I brought a drawing on a Subway napkin because I'd be at work drawing on the napkins. And the ballpoint pen on the Subway napkins are dope for fades,
So you showed up just with a napkin.
Yeah. And I hand him this drawing of this B-boy, and he's like, I like this. I'm put it in the computer, and I'm gonna put it on a t-shirt. And he did that, and he brought it to the ASR show at one of the events, and shit did crazy.
Oh wow!
And like, that led to him being like, "What else you got?" And then that led to them like going through my books and saying, "We'll buy that, we'll buy that, we'll buy that." And at the age of 19, I'm like, "Yo, that's like $4,000." Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And like $4,000 in 91 is like $8,000.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, I could fix up my ride. I could buy rims. I could get nitrous, and I could say, I could tell the Navy to fuck off. And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
The recruiter's like, yo, I'm coming to pick you up. You're going to sign the contract and you'll be in the Navy. And I was like, actually, I got other plans. I'm going to pursue my art career. And he's like starting to yell at me, and I was like, I gotta go. And I hung up on him.
Oh.
And that was it. And then Ken and Damon were the ones that introduced or discovered me and opened the door for me to step into the skate industry. And from there, I got involved with drawers, and then we started Dub.
Okay.
And then we started DC Shoes. So I was the founding artist for all those companies.
For DC?
Yeah. And so I hopped around the industry a lot. I also, I worked with Tony Magnuson. I did Evil skateboards, all these graphics in the 90s for all these pros. We got into footwear as well. And Evil became Osiris.
Okay.
And so I was the founding artist for Osiris. I worked with Chad Muska. I was the founding artist for Circa. And I'm talking about like some of these companies, I came up with their names for the company, like Circa and the icons. And I helped develop the vibe with the team, and so my DNA is in that culture just as much as it would be, playing a role in graffiti and
Gotcha.
writing, so like I was writing these two roads that were parallel, it's like graffiti, skateboarding, Like, and then like gang culture. I don't know if like graffiti is in the middle and gang culture's over here. And then there's like skateboarding here and graffiti kind of like intersects all between because it's street,
Yeah.
right? Like we're all, and like the music and the fashion and all that stuff was all touching like everything.
It's kind of like they all resembled each other, like brothers and cousins type thing.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm a big fan of that movement of like Osiris, DVS, Globe, DC. But when I was like in high school, it was very popular, right?
It was, yeah.
Like I go anywhere, get myself some DVS's, Osiris.
There wasn't a time when you didn't see anybody not wearing those
Yeah.
shoes. I had like funny thoughts that, man, one day I'm going to get in a fight with somebody and they're going to be wearing my shit. Because I was designing footwear too.
Yeah.
I got into designing shoes and that's what brought me to Asia.
Okay.
Yeah.
In your opinion, like, what do you think kind of like put an end to that movement? Because like now it seems like you can only get him online. I mean, Zoomies has a minimal of options.
Yeah.
What you could get, very, very minimal.
Yeah.
It's not like before. So what do you think put an end to it?
I think there was oversaturation.
Okay.
And then what happens is that like in companies, you know, like something like your competitors will design a product that becomes really popular.
Yeah.
And so all the salespeople will come and say, I need that, you know, because everybody's trying to make as much money as they can. Can you design something like that? And Osiris was a very unique brand. We were like outlandish, like, I mean, we created the puffy shoe. You know what I mean? Like Osiris was at the forefront of that puffy shoe thing. That was by accident. That wasn't intentional.
Really?
That was because we were drawing shoes like cartoons. You know, and we were giving it the cartoon drawings to the developers, and they were like, "Well, they want a cartoon shoe," so they were sewing these big bubbly shoes because we were like, we didn't go to school for designing shoes.
Yeah.
You know, we were just doing it. Like we were pivoting in the industry. They're like, "Okay, we're a shoe company now. All right, well, like I guess I'll design some shoes." Draw them up
Yeah.
and send them to Asia, and then they were like, "Send back these puffy shoes." I go, "Well, I guess that's it," and they just hit. And it became a thing. So that was like a happy accident, I guess. Shout out to Brian Reed, who was really at the forefront of that.
Shout out Brian Reed. And you know, also too, you guys had a collectible. I mean, not collectible, an artist series.
Yeah, with OG Abel.
And I think Dice did one too.
Eventually.
Yeah.
So that was something that I really wanted to bring to the table when I was at Osiris because DC was doing it. Damon Way was the guy that was bringing Cause in.
Yeah.
And he was bringing Shepard in and all that stuff because he had those relationships. So like me being an artist and at Osiris at the time, I wasn't at DC at the time around that. I was at Osiris. And I was like, we need to do artwork on shoes. And, you know, it took some, you know, being persuasive.
Yeah.
Because they were like, why would we do that? Why, you know, what's that? But one of the guys got kicked out of the company. One of the main dudes got kicked out of the company. And that was my opportunity. And I was like, I hit up Ghost.
Okay.
My boy Wayne, COD, was like, you know who you need to do a shoe with is Ghost, RIS crew in New York. He's prolific, like just like a, you know, if you look up Ghost, I don't know if you know who he is, but like he's one of the dudes from the era that had really dope styles and put in a lot of work on the trains and just a key figure in our movement, you know, of evolution of styles. And he was a badass. And so I was like, yeah, cool, we'll do Ghost. And I hit him up, got to know him. We did a shoe, did really well. And then that was the first taste. And then OG Abel was next. And the OG Abel shoe was crazy.
I remember having a pair. I regret wearing
Everybody had a pair.
I regret wearing them. I wish I had them right now.
Yeah, dude.
Just to have them on display.
They were dope. I remember when we got the artwork, I was the one that developed the silhouette of that shoe. So I did the design of the actual shoe.
Yeah.
And Brian Reed got OG Abel to do the artwork. And I brought the artwork to Korea to get it sampled. And when they showed me the sample of that shoe, I was like, yo, this is a hit.
You were the first one to see it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I go, this is a hit.
Yeah.
And it was. And a lot of people made a lot of money with it. You know, but it was cool. And right around that time is when I left Osiris because I was like, I'm going to do Bunny Kitty full time.
Okay.
You know, I was tired. I'd put so much effort into the industry, and I didn't know because I was so young and I didn't have a mentor to tell me like how to navigate the business and like how to protect myself. I just gave. I gave, and never protected myself with contracts.
Oh, I see.
So I got to, and I accumulated things. I was living like the American dream. I had a house, I had this, but like eventually all that stuff would come crumbling down and I'd have to reinvent myself. And I fell back on Bunny Kitty and myself as an independent artist. And that was around 2010.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I'm sure it was an amazing learning experience.
Bros, I mean, sometimes you got to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And I learned the hard way a lot of times. I made a lot of mistakes.
Sometimes the hard way is the best way.
Sometimes. Sometimes. I feel like if I did it, I wouldn't be in the position where I am, where I'm able to be just an artist known as PERSUE.
Gotcha.
To that has all this history and in the cultures and being tapped to be ambassador for things or for the movement and to share stories of the West Coast and San Diego and so it's cool, man.
One thing I try to share with the world that's around me, right, when it comes to ambassadorship, like I know it might look easy on the internet to be an ambassador for something,
Yeah,
but you really got to bring something to the table for a company to want to work with you.
absolutely.
So like whatever it is, right? So like being creative is always important. And nowadays with social media,
Yeah,
you have to work with the social media presence and be really creative for someone to be like,
yeah,
here's some money, here's a product, let's work.
yep,
I know some people feel like, oh, well, screw that guy, I'm better than him.
sure.
But it's not about being better.
No, sometimes it's not about it being better at all.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's just about your personality.
Definitely to that.
Yeah.
I know my personality has got me into a lot of doors just
Yeah.
because, just keeping it cool,
Persistent too, man.
Yeah.
Being persistent.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and before we let the conversation go of the shoe, how important was it to you and then bringing in satisfaction, bringing a San Diego artist into the Osiris and dropping a shoe?
How do you mean?
What Dice won, he did.
Oh, so I wasn't around for Dice.
Oh, okay.
But I saw Dice start to do stuff for DC and then eventually Osiris. So when I left Osiris after doing the first art shoes, they just kept the program going.
Okay, gotcha.
But it was, it's always good to see your friends do well, man. Even though I don't get to see them and tell them that a lot, I love seeing my friends prosper.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, man. Like,
and if there's anything I could do to push it a little bit, just give me a call.
Man. And someone like Dice deserves it, dude. Like
Definitely.
that guy, he paved the way for a lot of heads down here, man.
I know Converse started doing it for a while too, where they had like a Converse shoe with a bunch of graffiti on it.
Yeah, like Cope and Fuchs and all. Yeah, it became real popular. But really, at the forefront of that was DC shoes.
Okay,
they were the ones. They were the first ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and Nike even followed all that shit. But the reason why you saw the change and why people weren't wearing it was because we were oversaturating.
Yeah,
we were cannibalizing our industry by copying each other and not being as creative. Nike and Adidas finally were able to penetrate the industry after years and years of trying and being shut out by the industry. They finally got in. They threw a lot of money at it. The retro look came back for Vans and for the Dunks and all that stuff, and that was it. And then streetwear came out of like what we were doing.
I really hope to see it come back though, because it was an amazing era.
I think to a degree it's back. Like you see the retro shoes, like the D3 is still hitting.
Yeah.
You've got Chad Muska pushing S here and there, like with Don Brown and stuff. So it's you got Action. So there's like a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see, but will it ever come back to what it was? I
Man, it
don't
was.
know.
If anybody out there that would listen to this, understand it was a movement. It was a movement.
It was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, Osiris was at one time, a $100 million company.
Wow.
That was crazy. And that's when it got dark. Money changes people, man. Enter the nightlife.
To the dark side. I wanted to jump into a little bit about if you could tell me about how the idea came for
Bunny Kitty?
Yeah, Bunny Kitty.
Bunny Kitty came because people were always asking me like when I was going to do my own brand.
Okay.
And I think it took many years, but in 2001, I had come up with the first drawing of Bunny Kitty. And growing up with a sister, she loved collect stickers from Sanrio and all this stuff. And I was a big Jim Henson fan, from the Muppets and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and thought he was a genius. Obviously, he is a genius. Goes without saying. Frank Oz, like that whole thing. Loved Star Wars and George Lucas and Shel Silverstein, these authors and stuff like that really captivated my mind in my youth. And so I was like, there's no reason why I can't have a brand like that. Instead of just coming out with a t-shirt company or a footwear company and just like entering the industry like everybody else does in my world, I'm going to do something that is like Sesame Street, but
Yeah.
street. And that's what I'm going to do.
Ooh.
And so I started painting Bunny Kitty next to the graffiti. And then I was starting painting Bunny Kitty next to like I was starting to paint with Rhyme and Revoke and these guys in LA, and they're like, "What the fuck is this? What are you doing, PERSUE? You're so fucking talented. What the fuck are you doing with Bunny Kitty?" And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna try to build a brand off of it." And so I really used like the movement at that time to just bring awareness of this character. But I had this whole idea of like writing a book, which I did with my late mom. We sat down and we hashed out the first book, The Origins of Bunny Kitty. But it would take years and years for that to see the light of day. It was like I was working in the skate industry still. I was doing graffiti and I was like test marketing Bunny Kitty to see like people's reactions to it.
Yeah.
And there was nothing like it. Really in out here, and street art hadn't become a term, like this.
Oh, not yet.
No,
Okay.
it was like like I was applying it to the writing culture. It was like how I explained it to people was my Baudettism,
Okay.
like Von Baudet and Marc
Yeah.
Baudet. So this is my Baudettism, just look at it like that.
Okay.
If you having a hard time understanding what I'm trying to do here, and that was my intention. And so, through the years and through a move to New York and living in New York and trying to get it off the ground after leaving the skate industry, I had really fallen on my face, man, and lost the house, lost all this stuff that I thought was the American dream, and having to start over in my 40s. And I moved to New York in my early 40s and started really pushing Bunny Kitty. And I had a lot of partners in helping to elevate that. And we found our place and we found our groove, and Bunny Kitty's been going at it, and it's just one aspect of my work,
Yeah.
and it allows me to pull in my life experience into storytelling to engage community, like in just in a pure sort of way, through the stories and through the artwork.
When you look at Bunny Kitty, do you ever tell yourself like, man, you could see all the emotion that went into it because you were at the very bottom coming back up?
Yeah,
Do you ever get that?
all the time.
And to see it now, to where like, man,
No, to have people like want to hug you because of Bunny Kitty.
yeah,
It's like, oh man, like people get it.
yeah,
Like they get what I've been trying to do this whole time, because like I was faced with people that didn't really understand what I was trying to
Yeah.
do. But I was thinking outside the box, for what was happening at the time. And, when I started to release the books and the product, people were coming around. They're like, oh, we understand now,
Yeah.
PERSUE, what you were trying to do. It just took a long time for me to do it.
and staying true to yourself as well, right?
Yeah.
I give you a lot of props for that because
man.
you followed what you really believed inside.
Yeah, follow your heart, man.
It was like you
Yeah.
had people telling you like, "Hey, what the hell's going on here?" But you were just like, "Boom,
Yeah.
this is where I'm at."
Yeah, they thought I was off my rocker. I am a little bit, but you got to be, man. Like I'm an artist, but I wanted to try to find a way to like, how can I'm always thinking about like, okay, without really having to sell the IP or having any partners, how I could keep this myself and like generate, a living from it. It took a lot to navigate,
Yeah.
but I feel grateful to be in a position to be able to do that in this current market and time.
This guy is pretty cool too, the gorilla.
Yeah, Rilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rilla. He's a character that I came up with about probably 8 years ago, living in New York, and I was like, I need to bring a street like cat into it,
Yeah.
like somebody raised in the city, and because I noticed like being around guys that grow up in the cities or tough environments, they got a lot of heart,
Yeah.
and it takes heart to be able to navigate that sort of like day in, day out,
This Karkin jungle that could just throw anything at you at any given moment.
It's hard, man.
Yeah.
Like it really does things to people, and so like that was, for me, that was Rilla. And Rilla, Bunny Kitty being this beacon of like, solidarity and hope. It was like, bringing the two characters together, because that's what I did. Like Bunny Kitty is this naive character that's just so cute, and Rilla like falls for her after they beef a little bit, and he starts to become really protective of Bunny Kitty,
Yeah.
because in his heart he knows what's right, and he protects her from like, these bad figures and stuff like that. So, it shows like, like people in the street, they have heart, they have the, and also inspire maybe some guys that are hardened by the streets to look at it differently. Like trust your heart in making decisions, and like better your situation, if you can, be the master of your life, and put it on track if you really can, if you have the option.
For anybody out there that will watch this and be like, how does this guy come up with this stuff? Like, how does it work in his head?
Yeah.
Can you take me a little bit into like when you're going into these deep thoughts of coming up with this? Like, how does that get triggered in your brain? Like, how does that work?
A lot of daydreaming, man. A lot of connecting the dots in my mind. A lot of living life and meeting characters in the world. Like Rilla is inspired off of a friend of mine. Because he was like, his intentions are good, but he's just fucking like the street. Like really, like he operates in this mode, and I understand that. But like, how can I take that and turn it into a lesson? Like. And then like, telling him like, look, like people love Rilla, and like you inspired him, and like people love him, and like they see what he stands for. Like, that's cool, man. Like that's what's up. You gifted me that. Thank you. So like all the characters are based around family members and friends in my life.
Okay.
And living life. So it's like art imitating life.
Gotcha.
So that's where I get it. And then just being able to conjure characters, and that's my strong point as a kid, right? When we go back, I was just like, my ability to paint characters and to come up with like, like these scenes and scenarios. That's just how intense my brain is.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the culture, right? Where like your surroundings, your friends, your family member. You might have that one uncle that just likes to smoke that big cigar that influence something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like just letting your mind flow, be
these
creative,
guys are characters
and work. And that's what I try to tell to younger guys that come up to me. Like, what is your perspective on graffiti to you? Like, what do you think is cool? Well, now I'm like, there is no cool.
Right.
There is no perfect.
Yeah.
Just wake up and let your mind work.
Exactly.
Let it tell you. It will tell you.
Yeah.
You'll see something. And it'll start working in your head.
I mean, we all start off as toys, man.
Definitely 100%.
Man, I couldn't get the paint to do what I wanted for years. It's like, this sucks. I suck.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it just started to work, man. Because I had surrounded myself with sick ass fools.
How do you feel about the evolution of spray paint, though? Like you go from like a Krylon, Rust-Oleum, so now it's like it's endless to what you can get your hands on now.
I mean, looking back, what we had as tools with Rusto, and Krylon, and what we were able to do with it, is amazing. Because where spray paint is now is crazy because of not only just all the colors, but just the technical part of it, how the gas and the pressure and all these things that favor being able to paint fast, to get the paint to cover, the techniques, and do everything that you want. The opacities, and the translucents and like so many tools now. But
And you got caps that can shoot a damn fucking bus
yeah,
spray
you
like
could, you know, yeah, like 6 foot wide
Yeah.
caps. You know, it's cool. I love it. You know, and it was really cool. You know, I actually saw that coming because I was going to Europe in the 90s. So in 95 I was on tour. I think I mentioned a little bit.
Yeah.
And I ended up in Germany
Oh wow.
at the Munster Skate Jam, which is
Okay.
this like where all the skate companies would go out to Europe and go on tour all over Europe and do demos at all the shops and hype up, you know, their
Yeah.
brands. But we would all end up at Munster was the grand finale, and that's where
Munster,
everybody battled it out on the course.
Okay.
And outside of Munster was a wall of fame.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh shit, here we go. Because I had just come from Norway and I had met Raid and Pay2 in Norway and painted with them and got put on to Quick, which was their Norwegian brand. I don't know if you guys know this, but the spray can mechanism was invented by a Norwegian engineer.
I read it. I don't know if I read it right, but I read a thing where like he made the paint because I think he was trying to like spray or something, and he wanted something that was more efficient.
Right.
And then he invented the mechanism.
Right. Yeah. So they're really proud about that. But I got to paint with them, and I ended up in, at this Wall of Fame in Germany, and like, like all the colors were dope because, we were limited in the colors in America to whatever, 15 colors Krylon had or whatever 10 colors Rusto had, and walking down the wall and seeing like, jungle green and ice, all these colors, like, damn. And their toys look like they knew how to paint. You know what I mean? It's like that's toy, but it's kind of dope, you know?
Yeah.
And then I stumbled upon this big wall, and there was a guy, he was rolling it out. And he was buffing it all out, and I walked up to him, and I was like, I'm just out here for the skate jam. And he's like, oh, you write? I'm like, yeah, I write PERSUE. I'm from San Diego. He's like, oh, shoot, I'm Sula from, T&B, I think he was, And he's like, I'm doing a graffiti jam tomorrow. And I showed him some of my flicks. He's like, oh, you get down, so you want to paint with us? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, all right, show up tomorrow, go get some paint. Where can I get paint? He's all, and he put me onto this place, and I was all great, and he showed me the poster, and 123 Clan was going to be there.
Oh wow.
And Wow 123 was going to be there, and there all these other heads, that would become these names in the European graffiti movement were going to be there, and this is 95. I'm still relatively new to like learning but I was getting pretty good. So, I walked to this store and it's like a grocery store, but they had all like this other stuff, and like supposedly they had spray paint, and like I was like, okay, yeah, cool, like, I might have a few cans. And I pull up to this aisle, and as far as I could see on both sides of the aisle is spray paint. And like, it's probably this, 30 foot, 40 foot, walkway with Belton and Sparvar and every color of the shade. And on the label is like, it's got graffiti characters and all this stuff. And like, I fall to my knees and I'm like, yo,
what is going on right here? Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
And it just shows that Europe was really about like getting behind this movement and like giving their artists the tools that it needed to evolve. And Europe is where you saw the polishing of graffiti and the movement and the letter styles with cats like Bates and Cantu and these guys,
I can only imagine the feeling of walking in there.
Dude, I was like,
boom!
Yeah. I smuggled paint. I got a can of Sparbar over here. I still got it from 95, like in my collection. I put them on in my luggage. I wrapped them up in socks, and I brought like 5 cans home. And I showed my friends and my crew and Quasar and all these guys. I go, this is the future. And like
You seen it first.
and sure enough, like 6 years later, Montana was here, and they're starting to distribute in the States.
I really hope to see an American brand one day in the future. I mean, I hear rumors of things going on, but
I think we're going to see it really soon.
yeah, I keep
Real
hearing,
soon.
I keep hearing it,
Yeah, it's going to happen.
and I heard about it, and I'm just like, all right, dope.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I get to see that.
I just, I just hope that they do it right,
Yeah,
because a lot of years have gone by.
and it's gonna be a big shifting point for them.
And it's a big shift for them, and it's embracing not only street art, but really the roots of it, the graffiti movement.
Definitely 100%. Let's stay on the lookout for that.
Yeah, yeah, it's coming.
I got 2 questions for you, bro. Before we get out of here.
Cool.
One, to your personal opinion, best wall you've ever seen when it comes to graffiti.
Best wall?
Best wall.
Oh, jeez, dude. Oh, man, I don't know, man. I've seen a lot, dude. I've seen a lot. What can I say? Oh, man, best wall. I don't know, dude. I'm at a. I don't know. I think like seeing like mode 2 stuff in Europe.
Okay.
Being a big fan of mode. There was some stuff in Germany that I had seen in person. It's really great to see these pieces in person, right?
Like pictures can only justify so much, but having it right in front of you.
But seeing it,
like,
and
whoa,
standing in front of it, and
Yeah.
it radiating to you, So like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of mode. So like,
Okay.
I'd say like some mode stuff in the '90s and seeing it in person.
It's like I tell people, bro. If you really look at the letters, they talk to you, bro.
Oh yeah.
You just gotta,
especially when you see cats that are able to execute.
Yeah, like
really
you
well.
gotta digest it, bro. Like
Yeah.
just sit there and really don't just look at it. Really look at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another question I have for you, brother.
I will say,
Yeah.
not only mode, but I think the dream piece that I saw him paint,
From
Dream TDK.
Okay.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
I was with it was up in San Francisco, and Apex had invited us up to do this long wall, and I had brought Virus, Wayne, Cantu, and Seamso
Okay.
up to it because they were all like sort of visiting me at the same time.
Dope.
And we had gone up to be part of this wall. They put us on, and Dream showed up late. And Cantu had done this piece, man. This piece was like, yo, like nothing like, he hadn't seen anything like that on the West Coast yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, he rocked it. Like, he burned it, man. They burned everybody. And then Dream showed up with 2 colors. And he did this sick ass chrome Dream, and like it was so much style, and it was so nonchalant and like so cool, and he just took it. And we were out. That was dope because I think that's real special, man, to be able to witness someone like Dream paint. And I was around him, and I saw him paint his probably last 2 pieces. Thankfully to Apex making that happen. So
How was his personality?
I mean, just about it.
Okay.
He was about the culture. Like
Gotcha.
he really understood it. And it showed.
Okay.
And for a cat like that to be down in a crew like FC, like New Yorkers, man, they don't give. At the time, they weren't big fans of the West Coast. We were all biters,
Yeah.
because we took the culture and we took it another way,
So it's kind of like had a chip on his shoulder type thing.
But New York is just like that,
Yeah.
like they're like, oh, anything outside of New York, fuck that,
Yeah.
because I mean, yeah, that's like Philly and New York were ground zero, right? For it, but so, it says a lot for FC crew, especially to put a cat like Spy and Dream in their crew. They recognize him as a true pioneer of the movement.
Man, may he rest in peace, man.
Rest in peace to him.
He was way before my time. I didn't get to meet him, but may he rest in peace.
So grateful to see that. Grateful to paint with Quasar, and be around some real amazing people, man.
Another question I got for you before we get out of here, brother. Anybody out there that wants to get into graffiti in 2025, what can you say to them?
Oh man,
Buckle
a
up.
lot of stuff. Yeah, I think it's a little bit different now. Like you can navigate it differently. Because of the internet and
Yeah.
Instagram. Like you us coming up in the 80s and 90s on the West Coast was trials and tribulation and baptism by fire, and just be prepared by the personalities and the players of the movement, and look at the past and the history and acknowledge the people that have paved the way for you always, because you didn't invent it. You're just an evolution of it.
Uh,
You're a pawn in the game.
And to reinvent, I mean, you're gonna have to come up
You
with
better be
something.
brilliant, because that's it. Because you look at, like, especially, I mean, like I'd say, like, I would be technically the second wave of graffiti in the movement, right? Like in
Yeah.
the '80s, and then like in the 2000s when really like Revoke and Saber and MSKs, and the focus was on LA again.
Yeah.
After Hex and Slick. It went back to Europe,
Yeah.
and then it came back to LA with MSK really like, man, these guys are pushing, like styles like crazy and getting up in ways that people didn't even fathom was possible, right?
Those guys were really something special, man. They still are. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, man!
they're
It's
something
what they're
special.
doing now, and
Yeah.
like their new members and stuff like that. Oh, incredible! So it's hard to. There's a lot of great painters in the world,
Yeah.
all over the world, but you see where their influence comes from, and I always look at it as like there was a time and a place when you knew San Diego was San Diego
Yeah.
style, and LA was LA style, and San Francisco was San Francisco. Like everything was, based around a city style, and that's sort of gone, and I miss that. And
The diversity
the
of it.
diversity of it, yeah, like you knew something was from Germany just how they tagged their name.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah.
that dude's German, now it's just like, it's just a mishmash, and an amalgamation of like so many styles coming together and evolving off of that. So yeah, I think it's really hard to stand out these days because the style has been pushed so far. But there's always people that come along and that blow you away. There's always some new players that come up and you're like, yeah,
Man, who's blowing me right now in 2025 are the guys that are hanging from the building.
yeah, those guys, man.
That's
Incredible.
next level. That's next level, man.
Yeah, because then, not even just that, just the endurance to like hang off of and hold yourself up and then carry yourself up and then paint like a huge letter. And yeah, it's pretty
And then putting yourself
impressive.
back up.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to all them guys pushing it to the next level. Nothing
Yeah.
but respect.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to input to that is finding your own style. Try to just build your own
Yeah.
style. Don't try to be like the next man.
Yeah.
Not trying to tell nobody what to do, just an opinion.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's important.
Acknowledge those guys that paved the way, like I said, and the guys that inspired you to evolve your style from,
100%.
Yeah.
My favorite question I like to ask on the pod before it's over.
Oh shit.
Favorite sneaker of all time to rock while you're painting?
Well, recently I've been wearing the penny ones again,
Yeah.
the Nike pennies.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the pennies, probably because I played a lot of basketball.
Okay.
And I had a lot of really great games in my day in that shoe. And so I feel nostalgic for it.
Gotcha.
And so I rock the pennies. And they're like moon boots. And they you stomp. And
The
they protect
pennies
your
it
foot.
is.
Yeah.
Again, brother, I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much for allowing me to come into your studio and sitting down with you and chopping it up for a bit.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, what can the world expect from you in 2025?
Yo, the book Gorilla. And I'm working on music.
Gotcha.
I'm bringing a music component to Bunny Kitty. Recorded some Rilla raps and also some rock and roll tracks with my brother. We've been collaborating. There's a band in Bunny Kitty called the Slugganauts,
Okay.
and they would perform on Halloween for many years through the years. And we're finally recording music, and we're going to release a vinyl.
Dope.
So
dope.
we're gonna do a record and just bring just always trying to push the the arts in Bunny Kitty, and this time we wanna put music to it.
That's super
That's
dope.
what we're gonna do,
I'm
man.
happy for you.